Hello, 8th grade families. It's Mrs. Zuleski coming at you from my balcony here at home. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video today. I know you all are excited and anxious to hear about what things are going to look like this year for you. So I'll do my best to kind of let you know what it's going to look like in my room. I'll start with a little bit about myself for those of you who have never met me before. I'm Miss Zuleski. People call me Mrs. Z. This will be my 23rd year teaching at Seats Middle School. Same hallway all those years. I have 5 children, 2 of whom are CHS grads. I have 2 current high school student daughters, one going into 11th grade and one going into 9th grade. And then I also have a son going into 5th grade at Huntington. My husband is the assistant principal at the high school, and we live in the forest. So our little world really exists in this 1 square mile of Riverview. So we raise our families here, we work here, and we just love it, and it's a great place to be. So what is your school day going to look like when you come to school next week? 8th graders, you are going to enter through the main hall entrance like you always have, and you're going to go immediately to your first hour classroom. There will be no use of lockers, at least to start the year with, and you will stay in that classroom for the remainder of the day. There are only going to be 5 class periods instead of 7. And we will be leaving the classroom to go grab lunch from the cafeteria and bring it back to our 3rd hour where you will eat with that teacher. So teachers will be rotating around and coming to you. So you'll be with that same group of 20 to 24 students for the remainder of the day. The bell rings to end the school day at 2:05 where you will exit out of the main doors. So let's talk specifically about what your math class is going to look like. But before we get into that, it's really important that you understand that all the decisions that were made is to keep you safe, both physically, mentally. Let's not forget about that. We do realize it could be stressful for some of you coming back into the building next week, and that's why the decision was made to keep you in one classroom during the day. However, because that the schedule is set up that way, we're running our math classes a little bit different this year, and that's what I wanted to share with you. Traditionally in the past, there have been 3 different math classes available to 8th graders. Your 7th grade teacher signed you up for either Math 8, Algebra, or Geometry. Those are the 3 choices available to 8th graders. And then you've already seen maybe you were expecting to see Algebra or Geometry on your schedule, but it says Math 8. So I want to take a little bit of time to explain that in our next segment here. What type of math are you going to be learning this year? And the answer is simple. If you signed up for geometry, you'll be learning geometry. If you signed up for algebra, you'll be learning algebra. And the same thing for Math 8. How you will be learning, it's going to look a little bit different because the fact that we aren't able to rotate classes. That means that we're going to have all 3 of those classes taught in the same room during the same class period. And so Miss Everingham and I, the other 8th grade teacher, decided that the most effective and efficient way to do that is to use a combination of technology along with some flex pace online learning, because it's just not possible for us to spend 1 class period teaching 3 different lessons. So as we explain what that process is going to look like this year, we ask for your patience and an open mind, and we will make sure that you understand the concepts that you need to before we head you off to high school. Pace learning really mean for you? Flexible pace means that you move through the curriculum at a pace that is comfortable for you. Have you ever learned a concept in math or any other subject for that matter, and you were like, I get this, I'm ready, give me the test, I need to show that I'm proficient, but the test isn't scheduled for 3 or more days, so you have to do more practice even though you already understood it. Or maybe the opposites happen. Maybe test is coming on Friday and you just aren't ready. You need a couple more days to study and really learn that concept. And in a flexible pace classroom, you are afforded the opportunity to do that. You take assessments and show your teacher that you know what you've learned when you're ready. And we use online technology to do that. So we have compiled our curriculum. We've taken some of our videos, whether they are homemade, our own YouTube videos, or ones that we've researched that teach the concept really well, and we've uploaded them all to Schoology into these folders, and you're going to watch this video and learn this concept, and then you're going to do some self-checking practice. You're going to have answer keys available to you in the classroom, and when you feel confident and you can show that you've learned the concept, then you're ready to take the test. which means you're going to move through this curriculum at your own pace, which can be good or bad, depending on the type of student that you have been in the past, right? Because as an 8th grader, you're going to be given a lot more flexibility this year. And with that comes some responsibility. And each class will be provided with a pacing guide. And a pacing guide basically is going to say, okay, it's October 1st. You need to have had at least tests 1, 2, and 3 done if you want to finish all of these learning targets by the end of the year and get that credit. And so you may fall behind pace for a test or two, but then the next couple concepts are a little easier, so you kind of catch back up. So you want to stay around that same, the same date that you're supposed to for those tests. Okay, let's talk about what happens when you do finish maybe a little bit early before the end of the school year, and what happens if you don't. So I want to talk a little bit more about the pacing guide and what that means. So as you work through each learning target, you're going to try your best to stay on pace with that, which means one of 3 things can happen by the end of the school year in June. You either stayed exactly on pace and you finished that last test the last day of school, or you didn't have time to finish them all, or you finished them in May. Okay, so you can either finish on time, early, or late. So let's talk about what happens if you progress through these learning targets early. For the classes of algebra and geometry, this is a high school credit level class, and you do have the opportunity to still earn that credit with some requirements. So for example, the algebra curriculum has 30 learning targets that every student has to take, okay, at least attempt. Proficiency on at least 80% of them, which means a score of a 3 or a 4, is what's going to earn you that high school credit. So if you take 80% of 30, that means on 24 of your 30 tests, you have to have at least a score of a 3 or a 4 for me to let the high school know, yep, they received their algebra credit, their geometry credit, sign them up for the next class. We will have the opportunity to still do retakes. We'll be able to talk as much as possible and help with the work redos that we have to do. Now, if you, for some reason, every class period you have 60 minutes a day where you get to work, if for some reason that's not enough, then you're gonna maybe have to do some at home to stay on pace. But let's say you just work your tail off and for some reason the end of the school year is here and you have not been able to finish the last, 8 or 10 learning targets in algebra or geometry. That algebra and geometry are broken down into trimesters, really. So we have an algebra A, an algebra B, and an algebra C. Each of them is worth a half a credit. So if you finish all of them, you'll get 1.5 high school credits before you even start the school year, right? Now, if you finish A and B, but you haven't finished C, that means that what you'll have to do when you get to 9th grade is do algebra C. And traditionally, algebra C is not offered, same for geometry C, the first trimester. So you may have to, you'll still be able to register for your next class. You'll take geometry A, you'll take geometry B. This is for algebra kids. But then when 3rd trimester comes, you gotta still finish that algebra C and geometry C at the same time. And I'm telling you this now because it's so important to stay on pace. Parents, it's so important to check in with your child and make sure that they are staying where they're supposed to, because we don't want May and June to get here and we say, oh shoot, just didn't have enough time. We need to make sure that we stay on top of it as it happens. Those of you who do finish early, I forgot to mention this, you will have the opportunity to kind of take a sneak peek and progress up to that next level. So algebra kids, if you finish early and there's 5 weeks of school left, then I'm gonna let you dive right into that geometry folder and get a sneak peek at it. There may not be enough time for you to actually get that credit, depending on when you finish, but that'll give you at least a leg up for when you start next year. Oh my gosh, you guys, that was a ton of information to process. And I need you to know just a couple things as you head into this year. I also teach a class first hour called Mindfulness, and the focus in that class is keeping kids mentally healthy. And this year is going to be a year that we all need to make sure we are working together to encourage each other, to help each other stay on top of things, and everybody's processing in a different way. And your child, 8th grader, you may come in and you may have feelings that you didn't think you were going to have, being around other people, and having to do things that maybe you weren't ready for yet. Please know that that's really my primary focus this year, is making sure that we all kind of keep our wits about us, that we show each other some grace, show ourselves some grace. There's not going to be much learning going on if your mind is not right. And that's why I'm saying that this is my primary focus. You're not going to be able to learn all the things that you're supposed to if you're constantly in this fight or flight mode, always feeling stressed out. So maybe you have me first hour for mindfulness. Maybe you have it second or third trimester. If you don't have me at all, I think this is the year that I really need to find some time to start incorporating that into my math classes, little bits here and there, because I think that it will go a long way in terms of helping us all through this year, because we're all in the same boat together. So, man, I really look forward to seeing all of you parents. I wish I could see you in a traditional setting where you could see my classroom and all that good stuff. Know that it's set up to keep your child safe. And please do not hesitate to email me or call me if you have any questions about anything that you heard today. And I hope you have a happy and healthy year. Thank you.